Hello and welcome to YHTV's Trinity of Life. This is episode 55. I'm Christina Suzama, your host for this program. Thank you so much for joining me again as I continue to explore the wonderful world of healing arts, meditation, therapies, and the many modalities of helping each of us find balance in our individual journeys. We're always excited to meet those who are on the leading edge of creating change on this planet. Now, at any time during this live presentation, you can feel free to ask a question or make a comment by scrolling down on your screen and typing it into the comment box. Be sure to click submit so it will show up on my screen and I will share it with our guests. Or if you prefer to ask your question or make your comment directly to our guests, you are more than welcome to dial into our conference line, which is 323-476-3672. And the ID number is 607393#. And just in case that went by a little too fast, not to worry, it will show up on the screen during this chat that we're going to have today. Today is, I think, a very powerful day. We are going to be speaking on issues that every female has to deal with sometime in her life. Very few that I know of, anyways, or that we've heard of, really gets away unscathed by this. And it is speaking about our menstrual cycles, or in some forms, in yoga terms, it's like the time, I do believe it's called like the moon cycle. Today, we are very honored to have with us a very special guest who has focused and dedicated her time to support individuals and communities throughout the world to find balance in this area, whether it be personal or as a group. I would like to very much welcome Nicole Jardim, who is a holistic health coach. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so very much for having me today.
Well, thank you for joining us. I mean, we did postpone it once and we got it going today.
Yay for that. Bravo. For us.
It's amazing how we're just talking about live production and how, the ins and outs. And last week when we were trying to get you on, the internet was so bad that we chose to postpone it because who would not want to see this beautiful face?
Thank you. I'm going to turn bright red now. See, that's the problem with live production. See everything.
Oh, that's good. Natural blush, we call it.
Something like that. Thank you so much, though. I'm really, really happy to be here with you guys.
Well, we're very excited because we know that you're friends with a very dear faculty member of ours, and
yes.
whom we cannot wait to get her on this show as well. And her name is Jane Foodie, right?
Yes, Jane is amazing. I actually did a yoga teacher training with Jane in about 4.5 years ago. So it was an incredible experience, totally life-changing. And then she just randomly emailed me the other day and I was like, sure, I would love to be a part of this. It's so awesome.
Fabulous. You see, it's the web of life. We all get connected,
I know. It's the coolest thing ever. It's totally the universe. It's an amazing place.
Yes, absolutely. And I always say, put it out there and it'll come back. It will
For
come.
sure.
And people of like mind always come together in some shape or form.
There's no doubt. I know. It's so true. Proven true for me.
Nicole, if you could share, I know that I have your bio and everything, but I really love for our guests to share from, their mouths to our communities, what your background, like what your history was and what brought you to the place that you're at right now.
Oh, it's a long story.
That's good.
Of course. I know, right?
Those are the most interesting.
I know, seriously. Honestly, a lot of this started in my teenage years. I was that girl who was constantly having period problems. And I used to look at all my friends and they never really had any issues. And I was convinced there was something seriously wrong with me, as I think most teenage girls are these days, which is really unfortunate. But for me, it all started out okay, and then progressively over time got worse. And so by the time I was 17 or 18, 2018, I wasn't getting my period for 3 or 4 months at a time. And I know a lot of young girls can relate to this, and conversations I've had with them now, a lot of women aren't getting their periods for various reasons. And so for me, that was a major, major problem. And so finally, I had thought initially that it was normal, and I was like, oh, whatever, I'm a teenager, it'll work itself out. And when it didn't, and it started to get progressively worse, I decided that I needed to go see the doctor. So I did, and within a moment, she prescribed the pill for me, and so I was on the pill for years because that was what I was told I needed to do in order to get my period and regulate my hormones. And so it wasn't until my early 20s that I realized that the pill was having a lot of negative effects on my body and my state of mind and my physical body. And I thought, okay, this can't be right. And so for me, I thought, okay, I have to try something different. And so I ended up randomly seeing an acupuncturist by a friend's referral. And within an hour, he had changed everything for me. I realized that, the food I eat and the way I take care of myself, all of these things have a profound effect on my menstrual health. And so that was the catalyst, and that was the turning point. And so I was in college at the time, and I started seeing this acupuncturist, like I said, and so he slowly but surely was influencing me in a positive way and telling me what I needed to be doing. And so I started making changes, and I started to see big results. I came off the pill. I got my period again regularly, and like I said, prior to that, I wasn't getting it for 3 or 4 months at a time. So I didn't know what was wrong. And it wasn't until probably like my maybe 24, 25 that things started to really regulate, and I was back to normal again, and then I got into TV production. And if there is anything that's unfair to someone's personal life, it would be that business. Right? I'm sure you can relate. I loved it. It was what I wanted to do from since the time I can remember. I was probably maybe 14 or 15, and TV and film was it. And I thought, okay, I've made it. I'm working on TV, MTV Video Music Awards. I'm doing all these cool things. And I thought, okay, like I can totally rock this. Except I couldn't. Over time, all of this hard work that I'd been doing in my early 20s to start to address my underlying hormonal issues was being unraveled. And I was, waking up at 4 a.m. to go to shoots. I was eating copious amounts of sugar and bad food and working 16-hour days. All of these things obviously take a tremendous toll on our delicate hormonal balance, especially women, just because we're much more prone to stress or the effects of stress than men are, just because of the way our bodies are made. I mean, we're made to make babies, so we have a lot more hormonal interplay happening. So for me, it was pretty detrimental. And so over time, I ended up falling right back into this place of really painful periods and heavy periods that would just keep me home, knock me out. I remember laying like under my desk on a location shoot one day. I felt like I was falling apart. It was not pretty. So I realized slowly that this industry was probably not for me, and I literally changed my career direction completely. And so that was what led me into health and wellness. I already had this background where I knew what was good for me, and I wanted to explore further. And so that's what I did. I decided to go to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and then I ended up furthering my women's health training with an apprenticeship. And now I'm continuing doing a 1-year training program to learn more about hormonal health and how to address underlying hormonal imbalances. And so that's really how I got here. It's been quite a journey. And talk about when you change careers, and maybe you can relate to this, but it's night and day. And understanding that you have to actually slow down and take care of yourself, that was never an option for me, and at least in film production. And so it's been a major transition, but a good one. And so that's how I got to this point where I'm at right now, helping ladies heal their hormones.
That's as you were telling your story, I thought, wow, can I ever relate to that?
Yeah, right? I figured you probably could.
Yeah, I was like, and it's so funny, well, especially in, I do believe my generation, what's interesting was people didn't talk about this. Like women didn't talk about their cycles. It's a little bit better now, and I know we had pieces of it in school, but even with moms and daughters, it's almost like mum's the word. We're not going to talk about this, or until it comes.
I know. And then it's just crisis. I
It's like,
know. And I
oh,
find that so unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I feel like there are many cultures that really celebrate a girl's first period. There are a lot of cultures around the world who, the girl goes through all of these different rituals and all these other things, and I just really appreciate that. I think that it starts off in a really positive way, whereas for many girls nowadays it starts off in a really negative way. And so you start anything in a bad mind with a bad mindset, and you're just going to carry that on. And so I think that is a major problem for a lot of us today in Western culture. We don't celebrate it. It's not a positive experience by any means.
yes. Well, it's not just. I mean, it's not just a woman's menstrual cycle that we don't celebrate.
Right.
Even pregnancy, all the way
Oh,
to
yeah.
pregnancy. It's like, oh, I mean, the first thing, oh, you're pregnant, and the first thing is everything negative comes out of people's mouth. It's like,
I
oh,
know.
well, what are you going to do when you're about to labor, and are you going to have this? It's like, whoa, slow down. This is supposed to be a really beautiful moment. Don't spoil it for me. I do believe,
Absolutely.
as a society, we have created so much fear,
Mhm.
fear around this. Is like, oh, you have your period, now you're going to have cramps, and now you're going to, it's like, whoa, it doesn't
I know.
have to be like that.
I totally agree. And that's the problem, though, is that we've come to this place of understanding that it is this way, and everyone just sort of accepts it as their lot in life. And I just think that's really unfortunate. I just don't understand how we've gotten to the point where it is. There is nothing sacred or beautiful or good about our menstrual cycles or pregnancy or really even being a woman, actually, now that you mention it. And it's really unfortunate. I think I wanted. My goal is to really shift that conversation, and that's what I could do with my clients, just because we need to have more of that positive conversation happening.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
it's about creating the awareness out there, and and sometimes it's speaking to the parents is one thing, and then but speaking to the young girls, the
Yeah,
teens, and the school systems, the educational system, and actually bringing it forward is so important if we can get it to that stage.
for sure. I know. I wish. I know. I feel like I wrote this on my website. If I'd had a health coach or somebody guiding me at the age of 17, it would have completely changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, I feel like I would have known, it would have been completely different. I wouldn't have done half of the things I did. I wouldn't have gone on the pill. I wouldn't have eaten the way I was eating. I would have worked out more. I would have just taken care of myself in a completely different way if I'd been shown or given the tools to do that. And that's, every young girl I can get my hands on, I'm just like, I'm going to teach you, I promise.
That's
Show
great.
you the
That's
way.
great. But
So,
I mean, when I think about it, it starts even well before 17, because I was put on the pill when I was 13.
oh, exactly. Yes.
When I was 13 to regulate everything, because my cycles were so strong in the means of it was, I wouldn't get up in class. I would till
Oh,
everyone would leave for recess so that I could go to the washroom and clean up because it was that bad.
that's
So
horrible.
what happens? You go on the pill, get things regulated, like you, and the next thing you know, it starts creating all this other havoc that we
Absolutely.
have no idea. We have no idea what it does from a
That's
very
it.
early age.
I know. I agree completely. I mean, we're putting these girls on the pill who are so young. Their bodies are absolutely still developing. They have many more years to go, and we have no idea what we're doing. We're stunting that. And so many women who have spent a long period of time on the pill, they lose their libido completely because these, especially the low dosage pills, they give you a very low amount of estrogen and testosterone. Sometimes just not enough for some of our bodies. We need more, and we're not getting more, and so it completely kills our libido and causes a lot of other issues like things like joint pain. I had a lot of physical pain,
Hmm.
a lot of stomach issues. so things like that happen, and we have absolutely no idea why, and there's nothing, we're not told about it, and it's not really written on the piece of paper that comes with the pill either. So
Oh, maybe not now.
it's
In
no.
in my day, the print was really fine, and they
Yes.
were like little, about 4 or 5 pages worth of the print.
Oh, right. Well, yes, I suppose there is. It's just that who's reading it?
I know that's the point. It's like
That's the problem.
you're hoping that your doctor's prescribing something that will make you feel better, right? And that will
Yeah,
do you
exactly.
good.
It does initially. That's, it's
Yes.
great. Yeah, you feel like $1 million, but
But
then
but
not so much.
Nicole, it all comes back down to as well the parenting. I mean,
Yeah.
why wasn't the conversation between mother and daughter first? You
I
know,
know, it's interesting. Yeah, I have this, I've had this conversation with my mom just in terms of understanding what the last generation was like, and it isn't. These are not things that were discussed at all. And for me, we had a little bit of a conversation, and I got a book, which was very informative. But it just isn't. I think that there's, again, it's our society. It's something that has been, it's so taboo,
mhm,
and we're only now coming out of that, and starting to have these meaningful conversations.
mhm, mhm. It's quite amazing. I know that some of my friends sort of I have a son, and he is
Hmm.
6 years old, and he is already learning
Oh,
about a woman's menstrual cycle. And part of it is because I said,
really?
it's about he will get to an age where he's going to honor it, and he's going to be compassionate about it, as opposed to, you know what happens in school. We were all there.
Yes, or you can, and it's so traumatizing. I can totally relate to the "I can't get up right now. I got to wait till everybody leaves the room" kind of thing. It's horrifying for a
Yes.
13 or a 14-year-old. Oh,
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's not just about educating the young girls, but why is it so wrong? This is a fact of life. Why aren't we
hmm,
educating the young boys? And basically I'm doing a bit of a test, because I don't
amazing.
know of a lot of parents who will teach their sons, quote unquote, about a woman's menstrual cycle. He's seen it all
Yeah.
his life. It's never been
Mhm.
hidden from him. He knows exactly what to do. If I go, oh, I've forgotten my tampon. Can you go run up and get one? Yes, mommy. And he'll run and get it for
Yeah.
me. And
But
he'll
why is
he'll
that
even get
so
to the point where
true?
he'll look at me and go, Mommy, are you feeling okay today? It's about compassion, and he
It is.
understands, it's like it's
Absolutely.
not a bad thing, but it is something that does happen. And yes, we do get tired now and then. And yet, some days we get more energized, some days our flow is heavier than others. And to me, it was basically a test. What would happen if my son grew up understanding this? What would happen?
Awesome.
And I'm waiting to see what happens. Do you know, as the years go on, and peer pressure and things in school, and just to understand that. So if
Hmm.
I can be teaching my son that even at 6 years old, all his life till now he's 6, what about the parents out there who have little girls? Do you see? Why are we still hiding it from the girls? Why are we still concealing it? It's like, oh no, it will happen when it happens, right?
I cannot agree with you more. I think it's an incredible experiment that you're doing. I can't wait to see how it
I
pans out.
know. I know. Me too.
I
Woo!
know. I think it's so amazing. I honestly don't know anybody else who's doing what you're doing, and I think it's so commendable. And again, why should it be strange and weird? And I think it's amazing. I really do. I love that.
Well, it's a part of life. So the more
Yes.
I do believe they understand, it makes it easier for us later and easier for them, right?
Hmm. I know.
So,
Exactly. It
so
won't be this like minefield that they're trying to navigate later on.
exactly. Um,
Hmm.
we have a question that just came in. Uh,
Oh yeah.
does Nicole engage large groups in the community?
Yes and no. I mean, I do group programs. So I have a group program running right now, and so I do those 3 to 4 times a year. But I haven't, I've spoken in at a number of events and things like that in New York City, but nothing. There's not like a massive, large group that I'm speaking to. Why do you want to have me come talk to you?
That might be it. Definitely, that the question that comes back out to out there is, would you like Nicole to speak for you in your
Yeah,
community? We could
I
always do
know.
it
I would
through
love to.
Skype like we are now, you know?
Exactly. I know. Skype is, I don't know. I live for Skype. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
best
pretty
thing ever.
cool.
Yep,
Um,
totally.
so Nicole, as far as like um, PMS is concerned,
Mhm.
premenstrual syndrome for some of our listeners that might not be getting the gist of that.
Yeah.
What is? I mean, it's such a common word now. Oh, PMS, PMS. Oh yeah, PMS. Oh yeah, going through PMS. Oh, it's so
Yep.
common now.
I know. It's like a verb, a noun, and an adjective.
Yes. Tell us a
Literally.
little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about what what to become aware of, or how to prevent
Absolutely.
it to the levels that it gets to.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it is. It's rampant in our society, and unfortunately, well, that's we were talking about having that conversation has it spanned beyond the PMS jokes, so to speak. And I think we're getting there, but it is. It's a syndrome essentially, and we've got emotional symptoms well as physical symptoms that come with it. And for the most part, I think something like 85% of women will deal with some kind of PMS symptoms at some point in their life. For many women, it's chronic, and they don't feel like there's any relief. But there really is. I mean, so when we talk about PMS and we talk about emotional symptoms, so we're talking about things like anxiety and panic and depression. A lot of women say they have a mini depression at a week before their cycle starts, and then on a physical level, there's weight gain, there's the bloating, there's acne, there's all kinds of stuff happens. A lot of women say to me they can't even walk in front of a or the bakery or like the bakery aisle at that time of the month because their sugar cravings are so crazy. So there are a lot of the time we're told, oh, this is in our heads and that kind of thing. But there is such a major hormonal cascade happening in your body at this time of the month. It most definitely is not in your head. So if anybody tells you that it is, it most definitely is not. I mean, technically it is in your head and that's affecting your physical body. So if you want to put it that way. So what happens is for many of us, we're chronically stressed. And when our bodies are in that alarm mode or that chronic state of chronic stress, we produce a lot of cortisol. And cortisol, as some of you may know, is the stress hormone. And so we're going to produce cortisol to meet our stress demands at all times. It's almost like it's the dominant hormone, so to speak. And once we have chronically high cortisol levels, it actually suppresses the production of our vital sex hormones like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. And so this cortisol is just going to continually be produced if we're in this chronic stress. So ultimately, it's a matter of dealing with the causes of stress in our lives. And I know that that's very broad and generalized, but really and truly, if we can get our cortisol levels under control, then we are going to be able to address the physical and the emotional symptoms that we're dealing with. Because at the end of the day, those are just caused by out of whack hormones. And so it's a matter of getting cortisol in check, and then once that happens, then we start to see a leveling out, a balancing out, a recalibration almost of our sex hormones.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
So what would, okay, so that's stress, right?
Yes.
Okay, I can see it with teenage girls, with their exams and things like that, peer
Yeah.
pressure,
Yeah.
pressure at home, teenage life. What can we?
Oh, I know. Don't take me back there ever.
I know when people go, "Don't you want to be a teenager?" Go, no, no.
Nope. I'm good right where I'm at. Thanks. Yes.
And then,
Oh
of
boy.
course, when we come on to college students, same thing. It's,
Yes.
the stress of studying and partying, peer pressure, still the same old. And then we get into our adulthood where we're actually out there and working and having to pay rent and etc. bills.
Yeah.
So, and more so for women today, because I think it was very different 30, 40 years ago.
For
as
sure.
now is usually is a working household now. Everyone
Right.
is working in some way. So those levels get, the stress levels really come on. Would you say stress is one of the main factors that you've seen that creates this high level of cortisol?
Yeah, I mean that, and there's not only like the mental and emotional stress, there's also the physical stress. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about the food that we're consuming, the things that we do have control over, because sometimes we don't have control over, the city that we live in, or our environment, our home environment. Sometimes that's not controllable, but everything that we eat, we definitely do have control over it. And so when we're consuming food that is high sugar, so lots of sugary foods or highly refined food, it causes our adrenal glands again to produce cortisol, because it creates a stress response within our bodies. So again, we have two ways of this happening. So it's the emotional stress, and then the stress based on the food and the things that we're consuming. So those two things, they tend to be combined for many of us. And so a lot of us are, stressed out emotionally, and then we eat really badly. And then this creates an even bigger cortisol surge. And so then what happens is cortisol actually suppresses the production of progesterone. And progesterone is known as the pregnancy hormone. It's needed to get pregnant. It's needed to maintain a pregnancy. And it's also, it's very high in the period right before you get your period. And so what happens is, if we don't have enough of it, we end up having higher estrogen, low progesterone, and that's what causes this anxiety and the depression and all these crazy things to happen. And of course, we'll have the high cortisol to go with it. So that, of course, is meant to get us out of like a fight or flight situation. So we're in a place where we're so stressed, we're producing lots of cortisol, we don't have enough progesterone, and we're freaking out essentially. So that leads to these emotional symptoms of PMS, and then the physical symptoms are usually brought on by the food that we're eating. So there's a lot of things that one can do to address all of these symptoms with the food that we eat, as well as addressing the stress response, or the response that we have to stressful factors in our lives.
That's
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, that was wonderful. Really,
Okay.
really wonderful. You see, people can always just rewind a little and listen to it again and take notes.
Definitely.
So can I relate to all that sugar crave and the whole bit. Had all that, but I was also always loved desserts. I would do double whammies, pint of Haagen-Dazs every night, things like that.
It's terrible, isn't it? And it's crazy, because I think that we learn those habits as kids. We're given something sweet for our birthdays. We're given something sweet when we do well in school, or there's always a reward. And so as adults, it's a much harder habit to break, because sugar, of course, is really addictive, and then we associate it with feeling good. And but it not so good.
No,
in my
experience. And it's funny. This generation sort of knows that, but it's such. I find so many parents, have being amongst parents, find it so difficult to shift that.
Yes.
It's
I see that too. And I'm not a parent, so I'm in no place to judge or say anything about it, but I do see that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really interesting. For us, we tend to have more fruits as the treats, and I make my own popsicles and things like that out of fresh fruit. So there's no added sugar or anything like that. I mean, that's already a lot of sugar.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially out here in California, it's amazing what the fruit tastes like out here.
I know, so jealous.
Yeah,
Get it
it's
all
like,
so fresh.
All those dried fruit that's candy. It's sweeter than candy.
Totally. It really is. I know people just don't realize it too.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. But it's a very interesting stage, and boy, I mean, ladies out there, I totally relate to having those sugar binges completely. And it's really interesting how working on production, which you very well know, we are there first thing in the morning, before actors, before the talent, before everyone else. And then we're last to leave.
Exactly.
right? And I
Yep.
know that I would tell people, I'm usually not into donuts, but for some strange reason, when I'm working on a production and I have to be on set by 4 o'clock in the morning, you better have that donut waiting for me at 5:30. Okay. Whether I be in front of the camera, behind the camera, craft service knows, have that donut waiting for her. And it's just a regular glazed donut with my coffee. I said, you'd think I'm playing a police officer right now. But where's
Isn't
that
it
donut?
unbelievable?
You know? And I have to tell you,
That's what we do. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this day, okay, if I have to be up that early, there's
Yes.
something about the rush that donut gives me that pushes me through that day. It's a weirdest psychological,
Crazy conditioning, right? I
crazy
know.
conditioning. So this whole donut thing with police officers, I kind of got it, but and the stresses
Oh
that
my
we're running
gosh, I can so
into.
relate to this.
It's really funny, isn't it? And
Yeah. I know,
so
it's just hilarious.
what do we do? I mean, what do we do? Like when you have women that say, I can't go to near the bakery aisle, I can't go near, what do you suggest that they shift and how? Because it's hard going cold turkey.
It's impossible going cold turkey. Cold turkey is very difficult to do, and I've tried it many times and failed miserably, epically. Oh, are you guys there still? Okay, you can
Yeah.
hear me. Okay, good. Just checking. Yeah, there are a number of things, and my whole approach is introducing really healthy, nutrient dense foods, and sort of crowding out the not so good foods, especially the sugar. And usually, when your adrenals are depleted and you've been producing too much cortisol over a long period of time, and they're sort of at the burnout stage, usually that indicates you'll have sugar cravings. So to me, if someone has sugar cravings, it's usually indicative of adrenal burnout or high cortisol levels, something like that. And then of course, if you're not balancing your blood sugar at every meal, that is truly a sign that you're going to be scarfing down a piece of chocolate cake at 3 PM. I was so that girl. And you talk about that donut thing. I've never eaten that kind of stuff in my life for breakfast, but on set, that's exactly what I was doing because I was stressed from the moment I got there. So yeah, it was just one of those things. And so when you're stressed, you need to feed that, and sugar is the easiest way to do it. It keeps you alert. It boosts your serotonin levels almost immediately, and then of course you crash miserably, and then you want some more. So that then you end up on this roller coaster and that sort of sick cycle. So for me, I strongly recommend to all women and men too to be balancing your blood sugar at every meal. And so what that looks like is having a good amount of complex carbohydrates, protein, and fat, like good fat in each meal. And if you can stay full for 4 to 6 hours after a meal, then you will absolutely know that you've balanced your blood sugar. Because if you haven't, then you're going to be starving and ravenous and wanting sugar or something else within a couple of hours. So that's a test. That's how I tell people what I tell people to look for. And so, and when you're having complex carbohydrates, these are things like quinoa or brown rice or something like that. I don't really eat wheat. I find that gluten really messes with my system, and for many women it does too. And I have found that once women take gluten out of their diet, they see a remarkable difference, because gluten, if you have any food intolerance, it's going to cause inflammation in your system. And if you have inflammation, it's more than likely you're going to have physical pain when you're having your period. So you're going to have painful periods. But once you take out that offending food, that inflammatory food, your reproductive organs respond well, and they like you again. They don't want to rebel.
Oh, they're being nice to me.
Yeah. I know, they're really nice to me again. But yeah, I mean, food is amazing. It's one of those things if we are, sugar, like here's a crazy statistic. Women who consume sugar are 275% more likely to be having PMS, like crazy PMS symptoms.
Mm.
So if you take or you reduce it, I mean, if you cut it out significantly, then you're going to definitely see a marked difference. And for me and many of my clients, they have. And so like I said, so you want to be balancing your blood sugar at every meal. You really want to be including a lot of fiber. So when our bodies have enough fiber, obviously we're able to go to the bathroom more frequently, which is a good thing, especially for women, because our livers are primarily responsible for breaking down excess estrogen in our system. So my mentor, Dr. Sarah Gottfried, she says you got to use it and lose it for estrogen, which makes sense. So you use it and then you got to get rid of it. And so if we have any excess, it's one of those underlying causes of PMS symptoms, especially the emotional ones. So when our livers break down this excess estrogen, it's sent to our colon to be removed. However, if we're all backed up and we're not going to the bathroom, that excess estrogen can be reabsorbed back into our bloodstream and create this estrogen dominance that a lot of women deal with. And so estrogen dominance will lead to a number of things. It can lead to endometriosis and fibroids, because estrogen is one of those growth hormones. And so it'll continually stimulate your uterus and overstimulate it. So it can lead to those conditions, as well as the emotional PMS symptoms like anxiety and depression and, the panic attacks that some women experience. Fiber is key.
Mm.
And getting in about 35 grams a day. And that's really not that hard. Again, it's really nutrient dense, leafy green vegetables, fruit, but fruit with nuts or a nut butter or something like that. So it's not too sugary for you. And just focusing on whole grains. I mean, those three things really add up, and you can get enough fiber in order to keep everything moving smoothly. We all want that.
I know that. Love that.
Yes.
I had a question, but then a question did come in for you.
Okay.
Nicole, what do you suggest for a young woman that is trying to get pregnant for the first time?
Oh, yes. I get that question often. I would say if there aren't any underlying hormonal issues, first of all, coming off of any kind of hormonal birth control. And, I really feel strongly that motherhood starts before you've even conceived. And it starts in preparing your body and being in the most optimal health for this baby that's going to live within you for 9.5 months. And so I'm a big proponent of doing some sort of cleanse, and just like even a food-based cleanse where, maybe for a week you're just doing vegetables and grains and like lemon juice, green juices, things like that. I think that when you cleanse your body, you're removing a lot of toxins that have built up over time. And of course, your baby is going to not only take the good stuff from you, but it'll also take the bad stuff. Many babies now are born with over 200 different chemicals found in their umbilical cord blood. And that's because of our chemical exposure. So I'm a huge proponent of doing some sort of cleanse before you get pregnant. Also, just eating to balance your blood sugar, because you want to be able to stay basically as healthy as you possibly can. So you want to be as healthy as you possibly can when you do decide to get pregnant. And so balancing your blood sugar, getting in lots of fiber, eating tons of leafy green vegetables, things like that. And, again, like having good quality protein in your diet too. A lot of people don't get enough protein sometimes. And so then that leads to like sugar cravings. I mean, reducing sugar, caffeine, dairy as well has been implicated a number of times in reproductive health issues. A lot of the time when women cut dairy out of their diet, especially conventional dairy. So we're talking about pasteurized, homogenized, regular dairy, they end up having a reduction in things like endometriosis and all these other conditions that can be caused by wacky hormones. So those are the main things that I would recommend for somebody who's trying to get pregnant. And even if you're not trying to get pregnant, I kind of still recommend them.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
oh, that sounds like what we all should be doing anyways.
Yeah, exactly. For the most part. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, well, from, as they say, what we make inside us is what we're made of. So clean up, ladies.
Absolutely. I mean, the food that we're eating now. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, I learn this all the time. I'm constantly relearning this, but what we are consuming now affects our genes. And, there's this idea of the concept of epigenetics, where what we are eating and the way we're living our lives has a profound effect on our genes and the genes of our children. So we need to, talk about having an effect on generations that come after you. What you eat now is going to definitely impact your child's genes as well as your grandchildren's genes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We had an interview with a naturopath. I don't quite remember which episode that was, but Dr. Nick Bitts, and he has gotten quite deep into environmental medicine. So it's not even just what we're putting in our bodies and what we're doing, especially what your comment that you just made about the number of chemicals they're finding in the umbilical cord now. Boy, that'd be interesting to test. So in the environment.
I know. Isn't it frightening though?
Yes. Even our mattresses. And he was talking about mattresses and taking the shoes off before people walk into their homes, which, being Asian, I live my life like that. So that's okay,
That's normal.
Yes. But here you are in New York City, I tell you, from the things that drip off of air conditioners onto the streets, what we're trekking into our homes is, it's really, it's quite frightening to a certain point. I don't want to say that necessarily, because create another level of fear, but it's really we want to create another level of awareness of what's out there.
For sure. Oh, there's no doubt. Absolutely. I don't want to scare people. I really want people to be empowered in their own knowledge and know that they're not helpless in this, and that they have complete control over their lives and over what they put in their bodies and what they're exposed to. I know, I live in New York City, so I get that I'm going to be breathing not the cleanest air. And so I'm okay with that, but I really try to make up with it. I have a natural mattress, and because again, the mattresses are formulated using formaldehyde and lots of plastics and all these different chemicals, and then you're going to sleep on that thing for a good 5 to 10 years. So a lot of people say, well, you can't sleep, or you have you have some kind of sleep issue and headaches and things like that because you're sleeping on a bed of toxins. So again, it's just a matter of educating yourself, and especially women with the personal care products. I am a huge proponent of using as many natural personal care products as possible, especially the ones that you would put on your body, like body lotion and shampoo and conditioner. Those are the main ones that you want to just work to replace, because you're constantly exposed to those. And there are, I think, something like 500 chemicals that we're exposed to, the average woman is exposed to before she even leaves the house in the morning, just from her personal care routine.
My.
I'm totally depressing everybody now.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm not of the average.
It's kind of crazy. But again, it's just a matter of being aware and just making shifts slowly but surely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. It's like we can go on and on with all the things that we have around us. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Totally could. It's crazy.
What we're talking about women and how to rebalance hormones and things like that right now. But honestly, it does affect men in the sort of the same way. I mean, they're human too. It's hormonally a little different, but I don't find as many men consume as much sugar.
Yes, I know.
in a different form, So, so as far as like the sugar cravings are concerned, I don't hear a lot of people, more and more so now, that where they're going, oh, I really need those greens,
I know.
Here in California, I hear that a little bit more often nowadays. And for me, I'm one of them. It's like, forget it. I need a salad today. I really need a really green arugula salad.
Yes. I can totally relate to that.
Right? But it took me quite a while to get to this stage. I mean, it's taken me quite a while to get to the point where I look at something and go, okay, instead of having 2 desserts for myself or even 1 dessert, it's like, okay, we're getting a dessert and we're sharing it amongst 4 people. If we even need to do that, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, Nicole, a question, a comment, I guess. Thank you, Nicole. Just great information about making a shift away from so many toxins.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's baby steps. You've got to look at it that way. Otherwise, we'll all be overwhelmed and just give up all hope.
Okay. So would you, one of the topics that I did want to cover was about infertility.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are being affected by that as well. And there has been, it's amazing, the numbers. And of course, the list goes on about how certain uterine cancer, breast cancer, things like that are affecting women. And do you think it's all tied together in some way with, the stronger PMS symptoms and, the stresses and the low libido? Do you feel that is tied in with the infertility that's happening?
The main cause of infertility in the US and pretty much in the Western world now, it seems, is something called polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, it's known for short. And so PCOS is a condition, or it's a condition for many women that's caused by insulin resistance, where our bodies have become resistant to what insulin is supposed to do, which is basically take sugar out of our blood and transport it to our cells. And so what happens is this is brought on by years of not balancing our blood sugar. So that's why I mentioned the blood sugar balancing, because it really is key to keeping our hormones balanced. And so for so many women, PCOS was always characterized by being overweight. But now so many younger women have been diagnosed with it, and they're thin. So they call them not the typical PCOS body type. So we can see now that it's clearly not only a condition caused by being overweight, it's actually a condition that's caused by just not eating correctly for our metabolism. So women who have PCOS end up with what they call cysts on your ovaries, and they call them the string of pearls because that's what it looks like in an ultrasound. But really what those are just eggs that have ripened to the point where they're almost going to burst out of the ovary, but then they don't, and so they stay on the ovary, and so you end up with these cysts, so to speak. And the problem is that when we have high insulin levels, so this comes back again, like I said, to the blood sugar issue. If we have high insulin levels, if women do, it actually, they're not entirely sure if the insulin, if it's a chicken or egg thing, but for the most part, people think that high insulin causes our ovaries to produce more testosterone. We obviously don't want to have tons of testosterone when we're women. We want to have more estrogen and progesterone. So that's like this leading cause. And so that it always, for the most part, comes back to the way we're eating and the way we're managing stress. Because high cortisol actually raises your insulin. It's meant to raise your blood sugar so you can escape from a dangerous situation. Except none of us are escaping from any situations right now. We're just like stuck in traffic or something. So that's what
definitely
happens.
New York City.
Oh my God, totally. I don't know how people do it. I'm like, I'm just going to walk everywhere. Thanks. So yeah, we have it coming from both places. We have it coming from the high cortisol, it's raising our insulin, and then we're eating a donut for breakfast. So, and this is what happens. We end up with the high insulin from the food as well. And this has a profoundly negative effect on our ovaries and our ovarian function. And so this can literally prevent us from ovulating. So that's a big part of it. Of course, the cortisol issue, the stress issue is related as well, because, when we're in that alarm stage or that fight or flight mode, our bodies are shutting down our reproductive function, our digestion, anything that's not necessary to survive right at that moment. And so it's diverting everything to our brain and our heart and our muscles, so that we can run or fight or whatever it is we need to do to get out of this stressful situation. So again, literally a very stressful event can bring on menopause. It can prevent ovulation just because our bodies are not in a place to make babies. And so that's what's continually happening. It's the stress, and then it's the eating to not balance your blood sugar kind of thing. And so we end up with this, it's like compounded, basically.
Wow. Thank you so much.
I know.
Well, it's like there is so much. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Now, when you talk about sugars and balancing the sugar in our diet, of course, a lot of people think of, the white sugar that we're all brought up with, and the sugars that we would add to things, which is, for most people, it's white. And a lot of people are getting more and more conscious about going into the raw sugars, into the agave syrups, into the maple syrups and molasses, and the people are attempting to make shifts. Now, are you adding those natural sugars into this whole realm of cutting back on sugars?
I actually, I feel that agave is one of those that's it's very processed, and it's very, very sweet. So, I really ask people, if you're going to have, we live in the real world. If you're going to have something sugary, make sure you've had a meal first, so that that doesn't have, it doesn't go straight to your head, because that's what will happen if you have it on an empty stomach. You're going to, for many people who don't eat sugar a lot, or even if they do, it's basically it's having a really strong effect on your body. So it's immediately being converted into sugar in your body, and going straight to your head and affecting your entire everything that your body does, all your bodily functions. Whereas if you have a meal, at least you have something to cushion the blow, so to speak. So that's one thing. But I also really think that, sugar in general is incredibly addictive, regardless of what it is. Some women are so sensitive to sugar that if they even have a piece of fruit, they need to have like some nuts or some maybe almond butter or peanut butter with that fruit, because there's too much sugar in the fruit. So you can imagine with regular sugars as well, like agave or molasses or honey or anything like that, it's going to have the same effect. So I feel that sugar is sugar is sugar, and it's going to have that effect on you. And it's a matter of really paying attention. I think that's the other thing too. We've been kind of told to tune out to what our body is really telling us, or the messages our bodies are sending us. And that's really unfortunate, because we're the only ones who can make the changes and understand what's going on in our own bodies. And if you aren't listening, then your body's going to continue to send you signals, and we're not paying attention. And that's really detrimental in itself. So I think for many women, it's a matter of turning back on back onto what your body is telling you. And so pay attention to how you feel after you've had this. Like if you feel really, really excited and after you've had sugar, and then you feel a crash an hour or two later, then you know that you've probably had too much sugar. And so it's a matter of just reducing. And again, having smoothies, I think smoothies are an amazing way to combat those kinds of sugar cravings. For me, they've been a lifesaver. And it's just a matter, again, of there's lots of resources online for making great smoothies. And so that's one way to combat sugar cravings. And there are other things too, like a square of dark chocolate, it's not going to kill you. And, again, it's all about not going to the point where you're going to have this huge sugar spike and then crash, basically.
Right. Okay. So ladies, you've heard it. Even natural sugar, be aware.
Yeah. Sorry, girls.
And it's very interesting that you were saying about agave being so processed, because that's another area that a lot of people don't take into consideration. Like honey, if you say you're doing raw honey,
what they do well, unfortunately.
Say again, sorry. Can you say that again, Nicole? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying with agave. Sorry, I was just saying with agave. There's really good marketing, so we're led to believe that it's good for us or that it's a better alternative. But like I said, again, this is if you look on the back of just look at the ingredients. If anything is over 9 grams of sugar per serving, then you want to be really cautious with it. That's how I look at it.
Oh, anything over 9 grams of sugar per serving. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah. So anything over 9 grams per serving. Yes. Anything over 9 grams per serving. You want to just really consider limiting it.
Well, now they're coming out with like coconut sugars and, just a number of things now.
I know. It's terrible. I think coconut sugar is okay. I think it's definitely lower on the glycemic index than many other sugar alternatives. Yeah. And then also, I'm a huge proponent of coconut butter. Mm-hmm. I just love coconut butter. It's literally the coconut all ground up, and you live in California, so I know you know what it is.
But a lot of people don't.
For a lot of people, yeah, they do. And it's such a great alternative. You can use it. I use it in my smoothies to make them a little bit sweeter sometimes. Sometimes I just eat it by the tablespoonful. And coconut butter is one of the great. The whole coconut, and it's delicious. It's very low in sugar, so it's one of my favorites.
Oh, there you go. Coconut butter.
Good substitute.
I know a lot of that's coming out. The coconut sugars, the butter, the oils. It's pretty amazing what they're coming out with these days. Nicole, we're coming to the top of our hour. What would if you could give women a list of 3 to 5 points just to become aware of those, of shifting in a step-by-step process, what would those points be?
Right. So the first thing is that I want people to really pay attention to how they feel after they eat. I think that's the main goal here. Food affects everything. It's so powerful, good and bad. So the first thing is to really pay attention to how you feel after you've eaten a meal or a snack or anything really. And make a note of it even. So the first 15 minutes and then like an hour to 2 hours after you've eaten. So that's the first thing that I think everybody should be doing to understand how food really affects them, because we're all different. We're all individual. And if we know what works for us and what doesn't, then we have so much power to affect change. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think is, like I was saying, to really work to balance your blood sugar. And so again, that includes complex carbohydrates, a good quality protein, and then a lot of vegetables, so a lot of and good fat, so good quality fat in each meal, and working to keep your blood sugar balanced, having with each meal as well, and even each snack if you do. Because again, that'll keep your mood stable. That will keep you from grabbing at whatever at 3 p.m. Because I know that lots of people have this 3 p.m. thing where everybody's wanting to eat cake or cookies or whatever is in front of them. So again, keeping your blood sugar balanced with each meal with protein, carbohydrates, and fat. The third thing I would say is when it comes to stress, there's a million things out there for stress. And so I feel like so many women we're sort of addicted to the struggle or the challenges of life, and maybe taking a step back and creating a do not do list, or just focusing on what it is that one thing that we can take off of our plates. If there's something that you feel really will deplete you and deplete those precious adrenals, then you want to focus on seeing how you can maybe do it better, or working smarter, not harder kind of thing. I'm a huge proponent of that. So that's the third thing, just really starting to look at all of the different responsibilities you have and seeing what depletes you, and seeing how you can shift it and maybe do it differently or try not do it at all. I know that's very difficult, but it's a good place to start. And then another thing I would say when it comes to food and things like that is to really think about how like what it is that you want. So sort of having a vision. I think that's something I do with my clients, like creating a vision of what it is you want your health to look like. If you want a baby, then, creating that vision, even creating a vision board of what you want your life to look like, your physical health, your emotional health, and working towards that by only feeding yourself good things and exposing yourself to positive things. You were subjected to a lot of negative things, news media, whatever. It's all not so happy out there in the real world. So I think just creating a positive environment for yourself is really key to having what it is that you want. Whether, like I said, it's you want to get rid of that PMS. The PMS has sort of been an issue for you for 10, 20 years, or you want to have a baby, or whatever it is. At the end of the day, you're the one who's in charge, and you can make it happen. But it's just a matter of having a vision of what it is that you want. I think that's really important as well. It's a little out there, but I think it works.
That's a great list. Don't get overwhelmed, everyone. It's just a list. Just check them off one by one.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Wow, this has been a great moment with you, Nicole. We really appreciate you sharing, your expertise in this area. And I know that we can continue, like we could get part 2 and part 3, because we can delve into the minute areas as well. But this has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for honoring us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I've been on the show today. I really appreciate being able to share this time with you and all your listeners.
Yay!
Yay, thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we'd like to thank Segovia and the Yoga Hub team for making it possible for us to even do this. And we would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us on this new platform of education and information. We're grateful for your continuous support and look forward to hearing your feedback on how we can serve you better. We invite you to join us live on Tuesdays for Magical Medical Tour at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 Eastern. Wednesdays for Trinity of Life at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, followed every other week with Flowing into Awareness with Anatara. And for those of you who'd like to leave us a comment or some suggestions, please, we invite you to call in to our number here, which is 818-LETS-TALK. 818-LETS-TALk. Thank you so much. And until we meet again, namaste.
Most people, behind the closed door, and I don't mean in the bedroom with me, I mean in my office, in my consult room, because I'm so frank about it, and I just come right out and ask my patients, how's your orgasms? How are you functioning? That they get pretty comfortable talking about it, because it's no big deal for me to talk about it, and I make them very comfortable. And most people want to talk about it because I've seen patients who've been in therapy, who've been in analysis and haven't